All right. Rafi, why are you in the dark? Oh, I can't hear you, by the way. All right. Is everybody else good? Sammy, your camera's not on. I'm not sure if you know that. Can you hear me, Rafi? Because I can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, we're gonna get started. I'm not sure what is going on with Sammy and Susanna's. Nope, can't hear you. Cannot hear you, Sammy. Um, don't really know what is going on. Oh, Susanna, you're also here. You are showing up as yeah, I don't know either, Sammy. Suzanne and Jose, I see you, but I see like you're here, but I don't see your camera on, and I don't know if you can hear me. Gotcha. Okay. We're going to get started while you guys figure out the camera situation. Um, Hopefully you guys can figure that out before we're done. All right. Let's go ahead and get this started. So I am going to give me 1 second, guys, so I can swap my screens here. There you go. I want to make sure I have this screen here. All right. Okay, so how's everybody doing? Can you guys hear us?
Yep.
Um, what about you guys in the chat room? Can y'all hear us? I want to make sure you guys can actually hear us before we get started. If anyone out there in this, like in the participating in the team, if y'all can check the YouTube channel to see if we can actually be heard. So it looks like it's gonna be Rafi and me for until we can figure out what's going on with the other guests. Okay, they can hear us. We're good to go. Jess was here, Danny's here, Al's here, Jess was here, and more people that I don't know who it is because they haven't put anything in the chat. Oh, Brian's here. All right. So the first question is actually pretty silly, but I think it's worth discussing. Very important matter here. So I actually told the kids they can ask us anything, including like what our favorite color is and stuff like that, like if they couldn't come up with a question. And somebody actually asked a question. And the question was, how long should a profile picture be left on your social media? So I assume that they're asking how often should you update it? How long can you keep the same profile picture on your social media?
I haven't changed mine in years, so
Like how many years, Rafi?
when were we dating? Probably like 6 years.
Sammy's here now. You haven't changed yours in 6 years?
Probably even longer than that, to be honest with you.
I feel like that warrants like a ticket or something like that. Like the same profile picture for 6 years.
That's catfish.
It's catfishing, yeah.
That's
It was
catfishing.
like
Oh my gosh, that's
it
so
was probably
funny.
like 80 pounds later.
80 pounds later, you look nothing like your profile picture. What do you guys think in the chat? Like the kids who are listening, how often, like how long should it be okay to keep your profile picture in your social media? What about you, Sammy? What do you think?
Mm,
How long can you keep the same profile picture on your social media?
I change mine every few months.
You change yours every few months?
Yeah, like maybe 6, 7 months.
Sammy's not looking to catfish anyone. His
Mm-mm.
honesty is admirable. I can see you guys, Susanna Jose now. Can you talk and see if
For 10 years?
Pressed the wrong button at the beginning to block the stuff.
Oh!
And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to go back. And I was like, I know I have to mess with that. I was like, oh no, ticky talk. But I figured it out.
That's funny. Okay, so the first question was actually interesting. They were saying, it says, how long should the same profile picture be left on social media? So, Rafi, how long should a profile picture be left on social media? So, Rafi says his is 6 years old. Like he's had the same one for 6
Probably
years.
more.
Oh
Probably more.
man.
Yeah.
And Sammy says he changes his every few months.
You got a lot of time in your hands.
What do you guys think?
I got the same picture I've always had. I guess that's personal preference.
Which is what? What do you have in your social media, Jose?
I got a picture of the family, and then in my background is my car.
Your car?
Yeah.
Susanna, opinion?
Honestly, I probably switch my background because I like to change the seasons, like if it's fall, winter kind of thing, or just something random. But picture wise, I don't change it as often. I'll just switch it in maybe months. Honestly, I don't keep track of it. Like it's not like I must change it every month kind of thing. So honestly, I probably have had the same picture for I don't know, months now, or more than a year maybe.
So Rafi said 6 years. His has been the same one for 6 years. And then Jocelyn made the comment that should be considered catfishing. Which I thought was hilarious. Because Rafi's like, yeah, I don't look anything like that anymore. And so
That's funny.
To be fair, it's not like I'm looking, so it doesn't matter. I catfish anybody.
Rafi's like, I'm married, no catfishing anymore.
Yeah.
I actually I did not even think about this until the question was brought up. So I don't really have a certain amount of time of how often I change my profile picture. I don't know if it became like a law or like something legal. I guess it should be like every year, like updating it every year. But I feel like Rafi deserves a ticket for having the same one for 6 years. Like a fine. Rafi deserves like a fine for having the same one for 6 years or something like that.
I don't agree.
No, Rafi, is it like your actual picture or is it an actual picture of a car or an
Well, that's my
object?
picture, but to be fair, I mean, my face hasn't changed at all. So
He's like in the mall bathroom or something.
He's in the mall.
I
I'm
disagree.
pretty
He
sure it
does
was
not.
a selfie. And
He
I-
doesn't have a mustache in
Yeah,
that one, so I
yeah.
disagree. I disagree. Your face looks different.
And the picture I got, I was bald.
You were bald in yours?
Yeah.
And then you became unbald?
I mean, I just threw it out, bro.
Became unbald.
I mean, I just think like on I think it's just up to personal preference. I mean, if you wanna, you're eligible bachelor like Sammy is, you just change your
He's
profile
not
pic.
eligible. He's married.
That was a flirt, babe. Relax.
Oh, well, where's Jenny?
She's not here.
See what I mean?
Stop it.
I've been sealed, senor.
But yeah, I think that's personal preference. I don't think there's like a time limit or an inappropriate thing. I mean, if that's something you're into, if you're just a media person, you got anything better else to do than change your profile pic? I don't know.
Got it. Jesua says that it should be changed every 2 months in his opinion. In his opinion, even though he says he never does it. So he's like, everybody else should change it, just not me.
I think every year makes sense.
Yes.
Sure. Like every year, sure. I feel like if it was going to become something like a legal matter or whatever, then every year. But
easy
whatever floats your boat, yo. In that sense, like. Okay, that was an interesting question. I mean, I told them they could ask us like, what's our favorite color and things like that, but I didn't really think they would go for it. Like I didn't really think they'd care about that. Now, the next question was a
Black,
question
blue,
we're
and
not. Huh?
Black, blue, and red.
Black, blue, and red.
Favorite colors.
Oh, that went over my head like. Okay, got it. What? Okay, so the question we're not going to answer because we already answered that question. Literally, it's like copy and paste from last time that we did it. I don't really know why it was asked again, but the question was, what does the Bible say about depression? So we're not going to answer that question, guys. If you want to know the answer to the question for that one specifically, you can go to our YouTube channel and watch the video from last time because we discussed it in that video, and we're not going to discuss it all over again in this video. So that was the second question. And guys, I did put the link in the chat if you guys want to ask like more questions. The next one is deep. So brace yourself, guys. It's a good question, but it's deep. So make sure you have like Google in front of you for this one. Okay. It says, why did God forbid sex before marriage?
Ha! Shall I go first?
Oh, that's funny. Go ahead, Jose. You're welcome to. I'm gonna be right back. So you get
She's
started.
gonna go get water.
Yeah, I'm gonna need water for this one.
Man. Well, because how do you say this without in PG-13?
You don't have to be PJ-13.
Let somebody else go.
No, man, I'm just trying to think because I mean, you basically once you have sex, you are basically giving a bit of yourself to that person. There's an emotional attachment that is not, you can't change that. You can't change that emotional attachment. I mean, nowadays people are just doing whatever, sleeping around like it's a common thing, but there's still an attachment every single time you do it. And I think that the reason you have sex before marriage, if you have, I'm sorry, you have to have sex before marriage, is because the bond that's created through the intimacy of, huh? After it's after marriage.
Yeah, you said
okay.
before.
The bond that's created after marriage, it's an intimacy that's unwavering, unchanging. You know what I mean? Now, that passion, that love, that commitment to that person does not. It's something that God designed to be one-on-one with that person. It is said that you are now one flesh. So technically in the Bible, how it's written, if you're having sex with multiple people, you're marrying multiple people. So it's supposed to be with one woman, one man. How things are going nowadays, you're just giving a piece of yourself to everyone. And that's how little by little you start to become really heartless and really just everything goes out the door. That's my opinion. Anybody want to second that?
Yeah. I think when it comes to intimacy between a man and a woman, it's past our understanding. It's we don't. A lot of people, we don't even know what they're doing, but at least I think it's one of those things where you won't know unless you did it, right? Like if you, statistics speak for themselves, right? If you are a virgin when you get married, there is a ridiculous high probability of you actually staying married, right? So I think it's far beyond our understanding. It's just remember that God made these rules to benefit us, right?
Right.
They weren't made there to kill your fun or to stop you from doing fun things or your own pleasure. It was actually made there so that you can live a fulfilling life through Christ, right? So if you actually get married virgins, you have more probability of having less problems, better marriage, and it's proven. I mean, it's not even just the biblical thing. It's if you don't believe the Bible, okay, that's your problem, but it's proven. It's seen in our society of how high divorce rates are, and that's because we have made in our social construct we have made sex just a normality of just I like you, let's go for it, and that's it.
Yep.
It doesn't have to do with commitment, which should be.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, not just that, guys, aside from the emotional and spiritual um consequences of sex, there's also the disgusting illnesses that are out there. Like, you know, if it's done the way that is meant to, which is one person, two people who have never had sex before, there is no risk of, STDs, all the sexual diseases that are out there. This is aside from the spiritual and emotional consequences. So remember, I'm not saying that that's the only thing. I'm just saying that there's just too many bad things that happen all around when you live that lifestyle of thinking that sex before marriage is okay. So research, like Rafi said, shows that the more sexual partners you had before marriage, the higher the chances of your divorce, of you getting divorced. That says a lot. Okay. So if you have one sexual partner before marriage, your chances of divorce increase. And then if two and three, and then after that, it just like rockets after that. Um, so, you know, um, why specifically? Well, we don't know all the details per se, but I always want to remind everyone that sex was designed by God. Okay, it's not bad. It's not evil. It's not something that we um want to like, oh, I'm gonna stay away from it because it's sinful and whatever. Believe it or not, and I have met people who believe that having sex even within marriage is wrong, that it's a sinful desire, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really sad. um no, sex is a good thing that God created. The problem is that we abuse it and misuse it like we do everything else. Okay, so if you're abusing it and misusing sex outside of the parameters that God designed it for, like God designed it for this, but then we go ahead and just like use it for this. Okay, so God designed it for marriage with one person with the purpose of, reflecting the church, the relationship between the church and Jesus on earth, and also to reproduce, to create families, to build communities that then would become the church. But we came along as we do, as we so famously do as human beings, and messed it all up, and started using it for things it's not supposed to be used for. So, you know, that regardless of what the different answers you might get, different details of that specific question, just remember that God designed it. He gets to tell us how to use it. We don't get to call the shots on that. Second of all, the reason he gave us those rules and parameters where we're supposed to use it is for our own good. Is for our own good. It's not because he's trying to, like, keep us from missing out on something, or because he wants us to be bored and because he wants us to be miserable or anything like that. No, it's because it's for our own good. Okay, so that was a deep question. Good one. Anybody else want to add anything? No?
No, I mean, God is not a mean God and just standing up there. You're gonna do what I say.
Yeah,
It's like
not a party pooper.
he literally put the rules just so that you live the best life you could. I mean, he wanted you to stay together with the person that you chose to be together. I mean, that was it. Very simple.
Yeah.
Because again, the marriage, as my wife reminded me, marriage was reflected on the Bible to be how God marries the church. So it should be one union, and it is supposed to be the fulfillment of life. Like the significance of life should be having a family, raising kids, or at least that is the big goal for most people.
So the next question I have is, what age do you think someone should get married?
Could or should?
It says should. I don't like that word.
Yeah. I mean, it
Because
depends
should
on
is
your.
like a rule, like this is how it ought to be.
It's not. I don't think age is a good indicator of marriage. I think it has to do with maturity and where you are at in life. Some people get there faster than others, so it all depends on that. It's to me, it's as simple as when you're ready to make a commitment at that level.
I think that I've met 23-year-olds who are very mature, and you're just like very like awestruck by their maturity. And then I've met some mid-30s adults that I'm just like, you have no business getting married. um it's unfortunately sad, but it's true. Like, you have people who have they have no intentions of being faithful, or no intentions of being committed in a relationship. And then I think that there are much younger people who, if they have been given a lot of guidance as far as dating and then like choosing a partner, they tend to be better at that. But I don't like that word. What age do you think someone should get married? I mean, if you have to pick, I guess I would say, in my opinion, would be like close to mid-20s would probably be a good age. Like 23, 24, 25, I think is a good age range. But again, like Rafi said, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're mature at that age and that you're like, ready to get married. Um, I think it's a matter of commitment. Are you willing to be commitment to another person? I think that's a better question than how old are you?
Or maybe if they're asking what age would you recommend to get married, I would
That's
word it that way, just
Yeah.
because there is no right age. Because, like you guys had mentioned about the whole commitment, maturity, financial, you guys are financially stable. I mean, that happens at different stages to everybody. So those are things to keep in mind. Once you get married with somebody, that's you and that person. You're committed, not just under God, but by law. So anything that is financially, anything ties you both down. So if you're ready for all of that stuff, and you at least have some sort of, I guess, guidance and whatnot. It's not, I would never say marriage is something you do not want to rush. It's something to definitely process and make sure that you're committed to do, because if you're going to marry that person, that means you're going to be with that person for the rest of your life. So if you're kind of just doing it for the hype, the moment, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever recommend an age. I would recommend not getting married for a few things. I mean, I would tell you, don't get married because you're tempted for sex. Don't get married because you fall in love emotionally with somebody. I mean, there's a lot of reasons not to get married that people usually do get married for. It's more of a checklist of things. I mean, am I compatible with this person? Are my morals and ethics in line with them? Are temperaments go in line? I mean, you can make it work, but marriage is one of those things. Like, if you can cross things out and make life easier for you, you can make it work. The only thing I don't think you can make work is if your morals are indifferent. Like, unyoked, I think that's just a disaster. But apart from that, you can make it work. But when you have temperaments that don't coincide, or a lot of other things that you're just doing for emotion or for just the moment, like Susanna said, I mean, don't do it. There's a variables. There's a lot of variables. It's not like, I would never recommend an age period. I mean, I've seen young couples that have done well. I've seen old couples that do terrible. So there is no age I would recommend.
So I actually searched what age do people get married that have the least divorce rate. I Googled it, y'all. So let me read what it says. It says 60% of couples who get married between the age of 20 and 25 will end in divorce. And those who wait to marry until they are over 25 are 24% less likely to get divorced. Now, the problem with this statistic, it's always important where you get them from. So I'm reading where this is from. It's from a divorce lawyer's website. So that's not a good, reliable source. So in case you guys are wondering, when you're doing research, it matters who's saying that information. Also, the other thing you need to remember is that these statistics most likely are including marriages who had sex before marriage. Okay, so like the age group between 20 and 25, that whole age group probably already had a bunch of sex before marriage. That I'm willing to bet that number is much, much lower if the couple had not had sex before marriage. I'm willing to bet that those numbers change drastically. But since most people do before marriage, these numbers are going to be really high, especially between ages 20 and 25. So, yeah, guys, when you're looking, what age marriage is most successful? Yeah. So all of these answers, unfortunately, you have to probably insert there what age group who gets married. Virgins, that's probably going to show you a better number. There's not a lot of those anymore.
As it gets older, I think they're probably talking about second marriages too. So obviously those are probably going to last more than the first ones. So
yeah. So yeah, guys. Sammy, did you want to add anything to that? I don't really know how to answer that question accurately.
I guess I'll add that it's my own personal life, meeting people. Out of 3 workers I met at the job I'm at, 3 of them have had at least 2 marriages, and 2 of them are on their 3rd marriage right now, and they're in their 40s and 50s. I was like, it's terrible, because I'm like, the way I see marriage, it's like, I wouldn't want to do it again, because it's like, my wife knows too much. I know too much about her. She knows too much about me. And, I think, there's a lot of stuff you have to think when you get married. And, another thing I was going to add, it's a little, I was like thinking, I don't know if I should say it or not, but I think I am. Something they told us in school is that, and I don't know if they still do it now, but when you have sexual relationships with somebody, that's going to be an image in your mind in a moment that you're never going to forget. So just think about it. When you get married, right, with your wife or vice versa, ladies, you get married with your husband. How would you feel like knowing his past, or gentlemen, how would you feel knowing her past? And knowing that maybe you've been around with people and you didn't stay faithful, even though maybe you didn't know your wife, and it's just a thing about, I guess, guarding yourself and
Guardian.
staying pure for somebody, even though you don't know them yet. I don't think you guys are thinking about getting married anytime soon, but overall, it's for God that you're going to do it. So it's just something to think about, and definitely do things right. And going. So this is how I'm going to end. Even in church, I've seen it, and it's really sad.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't want to see anybody getting into a divorce. So yeah,
Divorces are
that's
not cute. Definitely painful. You imagine all the time you invest in one person just to end up getting divorced. That's a lot of time, and time is priceless, guys. You can't buy time. But I do want to add a little parentheses. If you have made that mistake and you messed up, just know that God is big enough, His grace is big enough to still forgive you, and you can start over again. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. There's still going to be consequences to sin. Don't misunderstand me, but I just want you to realize that God's grace and His mercy can still reach you. Okay, even if you messed up. Okay, so please always remember that it doesn't matter how much you might have messed up in that area. God is graceful. God's mercy is extended to everyone. But He also knows if you're going to take advantage of that and say, oh, God's just going to forgive me if I do this, and then go ahead and do it. That's not the attitude a Christian should have. We should really want to stay away from sin. But if you did do that before meeting Jesus, and you messed up before meeting God, and all that stuff, that's okay. Jesus does give you a new fresh start, but He gives you a new fresh start to stop, not to keep doing it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. The next question says, can God just end the world? I think the answer to that is yes. I mean, can He? Sure, He has the power to. Now, I think that the next question after that would be, will He? He will at some point. The world will end, by the way, guys, in case whoever asked this question doesn't know if the world is going to end. The world is going to end. We don't know when. But can He? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, He is going to one day. So He is absolutely capable of doing it. Am I understanding that question right, or does anyone else interpret it differently?
I mean, He has the power to. I don't think He can, because He has already spoken His word, and going against it would not make Him God. So, does He have the power to? Yes. Will He? No. Not until the time is where He has spoken it will.
Will He, in the sense that, is it going to happen? Yes. But we just don't know when.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think this is going to be more of a...
I think we need a definition of what they mean by world. Are you on with me with Rafi? Because the world will end as we know it. By that, what I mean is, with all the sinfulness in it, with all the brokenness that exists in it, with the disasters and all of that, that world, that kind of world is going to end. If you're speaking of the physical world, like Earth, God is going to make a new Earth when He comes back, like a completely new one, that's much better than this one. So it's that itself is not going to disappear.
What's his question exactly? Or her?
The question is, can God just end the world?
Can God just end the world?
Yeah, it's hard to interpret it because of how it's worded.
There's so many weird, like now, at this moment, He has a power to, but He won't. I mean, what
do you think He won't? What if His plan was to come tonight?
Come tonight doesn't destroy the world, end the world, though.
Okay, so you're understanding ending of the world differently than I am.
The world that we live in, I guess. That's
Mhm.
what I'm guessing.
This is an eschatological question, guys. That
Yeah,
and we're not.
yeah.
I'm not very good at eschatology, so I guess the short answer is yes, he can. He's powerful enough to do it. But then all the open end questions after that is like depends what you mean.
Yeah. It's like,
Right. Sammy, Susanna, any opinions on this one? I feel like this is like end of the world stuff. And I have not studied that enough, guys. Okay. You can ask me
you could,
apologetic questions
you
and
could
see
even
how
take it like, would it be morally okay? Yeah, we're all sinners, so we all deserve death. So morally, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So whoever asked that question, if there's like a better way of you clarifying it, maybe do that. If not, and we answered it, then don't worry about it. So I'm gonna go to the next question. I'm gonna go to the next question. It says, how do you explain to someone abortion is bad even if they got raped? Woo!
Oh, that's a deep one.
That's a deep
Two
one, yo.
wrongs don't make a right. Simple. If I
So
kill your grandma, can you kill mine? Just like, no, of course not.
yeah. So guys, this is the best way to put this would be that yes, the child is a consequence of rape, but the child is a human being. And so it would be like punishing the baby for the rape of someone else. So, like, basically, you're putting the baby on death row for something that someone else did. And it's not fair because the baby didn't commit the crime. It was someone else. And from what I have read, women who have gotten raped who end up having their babies love their babies. I mean, they love them. They absolutely love their babies. Um, for the most part, you have very few who end up giving them up for adoption. So,
I think it's
um,
because of we correlate rape with other emotional aspects of it. Like, will the mother have psychological problems? Will she beat the child because she sees their face in the child? But we're talking about the actual event of abortion. It doesn't matter for the circumstance it happens. The baby is already in the womb, so it is potential. Well, it is already life. So ending a life is morally wrong, no matter how you look at it. Now, could it be a discussion of politically? Would it be an exception? Because of the fact that I would try to make sure that the abortions that are unnecessary, that don't have any excuse in any way, I would try to push those. I would be like, well, I guess we can have an open discussion about it because, of course, a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, it's rape, or if the mother's life is on the line, stuff like that. We should be able to have open discussions on that. But the problem is that they try to use these as defense mechanisms for all abortions, and unfortunately, the actual abortion that happens from them is quite significantly low compared to the ones that happened out of convenience.
yeah,
So
it's like less than 5%. So, guys, the abortions that happen because of rape are very, very, very low. Um, so basically, you have a bunch of women justifying it for the one reason they might be able to justify it, which in my opinion you can. But if you wanted to pick one, I guess have that one, and that's a very, 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 very small amount. So, um,
but how do you explain it to them with a lot of love, with a lot
yes,
of psychological help, and with a lot of encouragement and support? Because it's not an easy circumstance,
especially if that person's gone through rape.
of course.
Um, we're not going to deny it's a difficult situation, and especially if she's like a minor, like a teenager. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing, guys. And we sympathize with the ugliness of something so horrible to happen to a woman. And then on top of that, getting pregnant by that person. It must be just so emotionally and psychologically disastrous and hurtful, and just I can't even imagine that situation. But no matter what the emotional part of that may be, um, killing that child is going to add to the psychological trauma and emotional. It will not fix it. All of that's going to come out from that rape will not be fixed by killing the child. And that's
Uh,
just unfortunately the truth.
I've had a discussion with quite a few people about this, but it's one of those things where um, Christians are usually questioned about this because they're not making the lives easier of the people that are being forced to keep their children, right? And I thought about this at length, and I think that's where the church, in general, as a Christian church, we fail, because as the church and part of the community, we are supposed to be the like the ones helping people that are going through these things out. It should not be the government's responsibility. It should actually be the church's responsibility to help. Especially like for that instance of minor getting raped, the church should be there to help in any way they can. That way, another morally wrong thing does not have to happen because the church is going in there doing their job. Now, this is a failure of Christians, and I understand why people question why Christians are like, well, if you're not doing anything, why are you forcing people to do it? Well, that may be true, but that doesn't make what you're doing wrong. See, they're trying to justify it by using another wrong. That's not how it works. The church is failing in certain things, and it's failing in a lot of things, but we're humans as well. It doesn't mean that all the things that are going to be morally done wrong because of that are all going to be justified automatically. It's like saying, well, the church isn't feeding the poor, so they should be able to go steal from the stores. No, that's not how it works. There should be open discussions about it, but these things are still wrong, and it doesn't matter how you look at it.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything, guys?
You guys pretty much cover a lot of how I feel about that. It's definitely I think either rape in any gender, whatever it could be, it's definitely traumatizing for anyone to go through. But definitely, like Rafi mentioned, just being there supportive to that person, because they obviously are, sometimes have an emotional breakdown, and even just hearing them out, or maybe just a hug is enough sometimes, for some people, because we can't relate to them because we haven't gone through that, and sometimes it's hard for people to be able to come out of that shell with that. But I think just being super supportive, and definitely it's not the child's fault for how it came into this world. And I mean, I know that sometimes there's options for adoption, or getting some help, or having an open adoption. What is it? I don't know what the term is, but at least, if that's something that is another option. Like, I think like there's other options to go about it. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's so much people, like I know so many couples that are having issues very young, not being able to have children, and it's difficult for them. So I think there's other options, but definitely just being supportive with that person who's going through that tough time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Sammy, do you have anything?
Yeah. So, like Susanna said, you guys pretty much covered a bunch of it. What I was gonna say is, if you do meet somebody like that got raped, that's a really, like, you said 5%, right, Julie? So I think in another
Less
article,
than 5%.
I think I heard that it was like really, like, I think it was like 0.001%.
It's a very low number. I can't remember exactly, but it's a very low number.
Yeah. So pretty much the majority of people that are in favor of abortions are women that just want to do what they want to do and just, abort the babies left and right. And there are a lot of options. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of crisis pregnancy centers. So pretty much they're kind of like clinics where they try to show the mother the ultrasound, show them what the baby looks like because I can't say the word statistically.
Statistically.
There we go, came out now. When they see what the baby looks like, um, they're it kind of changes their mind that they'll go through the whole abortion. I would also, if you have, the I guess the stomach and courage for it, you could show them like the actual medical procedure of how the baby's going to be aborted. It's just horrible. I can't believe, in my opinion, people that actually commit crimes and get the death penalty, they have a more humane death than an abortion towards a baby. Um, there's a lot of help out there for somebody that wants to keep their baby. And what I was gonna say is it's very difficult in the aspect that I think Planned Parenthood, which those are the people that are big founders of abortion and everything like that. I think I was listening to a podcast and they were saying that pretty much they were trying to remove the address of a local, pregnancy center in an area because that's pretty much what it is. Planned Parenthood was trying to hide that information for them. Um, and I was going to say something like, that's one of the biggest arguments I've heard too, like especially when Roe versus Wade was overturned. That, oh, why aren't Christians doing this? Why aren't Christians doing that? When you look at originally, like all these charities and orphanages, originally they were actually founded by Christians. And, Christians taking babies that are unwanted goes as far back as Roman times. There was a big abortion law that over there that if, the parents didn't want a child, they could legally abort it or just leave it in the wilderness and let it be eaten by animals. So the Christians would go at night and actually pick up the babies and raise them. Um, and I do agree. I personally think within our church, there's a lot more we can do to help, in the community and stuff like that, especially with Hispanic people. But yeah, that's my opinion about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a difficult situation, guys, because of how emotional and how traumatizing and psychological damage it makes. So it's not an easy topic to go through, and that's especially probably going to be true for teenagers your age. Um, so I would say if be graceful, and just when you're talking to the person in your mind, just ask God to give you the right words. Like, help me say the right words. Um, you know, always don't be scared of talking to God in your mind, God. Like, you don't have to be like, hold on, I'm gonna go pray and get on your knees or anything. Like, you can just mentally talk to God and be like, God, I don't really know what to say. Can you help me out over here? It's simple as that. Okay, let's go to the next one. It says, what do you do if you have some doubts about God? It's a good question. What do you do? So first, I would like to say, do not go ask an atheist the questions. um, if you're having doubts about God, find someone who might be able to answer the questions well. Someone, hopefully, who is familiar with apologetics. Um, and also, the other thing I would say is don't be scared to ask the questions, because if we really believe something that is true, if we believe something that is actually real, then it will stand against any questions or doubts you may have. So ask the questions, but find the right people to ask them to. Like, if someone doesn't have the knowledge, especially if they are not familiar with like a more apologetic approach, and things like that, then I would just try to find the right person. But don't be scared to ask the questions. If someone brushes you off and is like, stop asking those questions or just have faith, go ask someone else. But don't just brush off the questions and then go ask someone who is not a Christian, because then you're not going to get the right answers. I think that's it. Anybody else have an opinion?
Yeah, make sure that you're doing your research. And I don't mean that by like going and reading 20 books, but being someone who has gone away from church because I looked for truth and then found the truth and just wound out back in the same place. It's don't get all of your knowledge from social media, first off, because if you're doubting because of social media and you haven't done any other research, then honestly, you're just finding whatever is most entertaining. Because I've heard a lot of kids who are like, "Oh, I saw this, this thing that an atheist put, and it made perfect sense." Blah blah. It's like, but did you see the other side? Did you actually think about it, or you saw that video and it may sound like a strong word, but you're just ignorant enough to believe it? Then you need to unignorant yourself and go and find it, because if you've never actually looked for the truth or even done research, then you're easily influenced, and you really have to accept that. Make sure what you're actually going for is the truth. And some things sound logical. I've argued with some atheists, some agnostics, and it sounds very logical. But then when I went to go find the flaws in it, there are flaws. You just actually need to think about it. I think nowadays social media just pulls you way too fast into a certain way of thinking. Just like a lot of people are Democrats just because all of their information is from there. So a lot of people are Republicans because they're just from that side of it and they only follow those people. So, now I know everything about politics. Oh, like actually do your research, look at every side. Like if you listen to an atheist say something and it made sense, all right, go to the other side, see if it still makes sense. And vice versa. Because if we think that the truth is what we believe in, then it should stand, like she said.
Right.
You shouldn't be scared of like, oh, well, what if someone disproves what I believe in? And what you believe in is not true. So you should actually research it. Just don't be afraid to be wrong.
I know a lot of people try to use the Bible verse that talks about doubt being sinful, but there's a difference between that doubt, guys, and the doubt that we're talking about. So we're talking about just normal, common doubts that you can have about anything. Like, how do I know 1 + 1 is 2? A normal doubt that you can have, and we can test that no matter what we do, and we're just going to have to accept the fact that there's a truth that we can't deny. But there's how do I put this? So you have to make sure that you realize that there are some things that shoot, I lost my train of thought. So like when you're asking the questions, the doubt that stops you from believing from God and like takes you out of Christianity, that's the doubt that's sinful. The doubts that you're going to ask and that you give it a real shot and it's just going to bring you right back to Christianity. So I guess that's the biggest difference that I want to make there. There are doubts that are going to lead people out of Christianity because they don't want to accept the truth. They don't want to look at the reality. That's sinful. And that's what the Bible is talking about. It's not talking about the normal doubts that every Christian can have. And any Christian who says they have never had doubts is a liar. Okay. Let's just put that out there. Every single Christian has had their doubts at one point or another. It's whether that doubt takes you closer to God or not that matters. Okay, that's what's really going to make the difference. Anybody else want to add anything before I move on to the next question?
And one other thing, now the doubt I had before I came back to Christianity was, I guess you would call it chosen ignorance, because I specifically set out to disprove it to myself because I didn't want to follow it. So be mindful of that. be like, are you looking for all these other things just because you wish Christianity wasn't true, so you wouldn't have to follow these rules? Because it is something you'll go through as a teen. You want to be able to do whatever you want. You're a young adult, whether that be basic things or more complicated things, you will want to do your will. And that's definitely how I felt. So I remember arguing with Julissa all the time, and I'm a smart mouth. So I was able to trip her up a few times, but usually I knew I was wrong. I just knew how to make myself sound right. So, you know, always make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Are you actually looking for the truth, or are you just trying to find an excuse not to listen?
Yeah, so that's where I wanted to be specific, I think, with the intention. Do you actually want the truth? Are you actually seeking truth? Or are you seeking to justify your behavior and your sin and your lifestyle? So it matters. The intention of your heart matters. Don't come off of it from the wrong position. Good point. All right, let's go on to the next question. And the next question says, why does God allow all the sinful stuff in the world?
Because then he would end the world.
The world that he can't end, or the one that he can end?
Both.
So
I think I have a counter question. My counter question would be, if you think God allows all the sin in the world, then how can it be so if God created the perfect man?
Can you repeat that?
I didn't
So
capture that.
if God allows sin, or what was the question? You said the question is, why does God allow sin?
Why does God allow all the sinful stuff in the world?
Okay, so the question, my counter question is how can God allow all the sin in the world if He created the perfect man? You get what I'm saying?
Are you saying that he did?
So by God creating, say it again.
Are you saying that he did not create a perfect man?
No, I said He created the perfect man. That's my counter question. So it's
Can you
not
just
God who did the sins of the world. The ones who did the sin of the world is man.
wait? So who are you referring to as a perfect man?
Are you talking
Of
about
course,
Adam?
Adam. Adam. Eve was the one who did the thing, and then Adam followed along with it. But initially, he created the perfect man before Eve.
I guess my question for you is, how is that connected to all the simple stuff in the world? Um, I guess how are you connecting it?
It wasn't God who made all the sin of the world.
Oh,
Oh
so
yeah, but
yeah.
that's not the question. So it's not why God made all sinful stuff in the world. It's why does He allow it?
Mm.
The question is, why does He allow all the sinful stuff in the world? Okay, so now if that makes sense, why you're saying that. So the question was
Yeah,
not
my
why
bad.
does God create it or why does He make it. The question is, why does
My
He
bad.
allow it to happen? Yeah.
My bad.
I get it now because you were
No.
you were saying why did he create it?
Yeah,
Create.
he
Okay,
thought that we were asking why does he do it? Like why does he
I
create
see.
it,
But I
cause
mean
it?
that's exactly it though. What he said makes sense though because man did it. It's not
Right.
God didn't make
Right.
it. God didn't do it. And if he wouldn't have allowed men to do it, then they wouldn't be free-willed men.
Right. His approach makes sense if that was the question, but that was not the question. The question was, why does he allow it then?
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
No,
So,
that's what I'm saying though. Is because we are free-willed creatures. If
oh,
God
okay.
wouldn't
I
have
didn't
allowed it,
capture that.
then we wouldn't be able to make the decision to sin.
So, guys, believe it or not, what Rocky said is true. Like, we have free will and we get to choose what we want to do. So ergo sin happens because we just love it so much. But the reason I say that is because it's important to remember that a lot of that is because of mercy. And I want you guys to think about this for a minute. God can and will get rid of all the sin in the world. He's capable of it and he will do it one day. But the thing is that if he did that, it would mean getting rid of every single person who could cause sin. So that would include us. This is a lot of why he allows it to happen is not because he's okay with it or because he likes it. It's because he's merciful. And he's just kind of just giving us more time to wake up, to be woke? No, to wake up and follow Jesus and make the decision to follow him so that then we could become part of the world that he's trying to create in the future that is sinless without sin. But without Jesus, we can't be part of that world. So if he were to say he comes right now to get rid of all the sinful stuff in the world, that would mean getting rid of every single person who doesn't have Jesus, because then they would cause sin to happen. So really, a lot of that is because of his mercy. We don't know exactly all the exact reasons, but part of it is because he's merciful. And he allows you to live even though he knows you're going to cause sinful things to happen because of his mercy and grace. That's really, if you think about it, that's really it, because he can get rid of all evil. He can get rid of all sin, but that means you're going down too, because you be causing some sin and you be causing some evil, guys. So, and by you, I mean all of us, not just you, like, oh, you do and not me. No, we all do, all of us. So that's my best take on that. What do you guys think? Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
Next question and last question is, how can we improve? I guess this meant to say our ways. How can we improve our ways to talk to non-believers about God? How can we improve our ways to talk to non-believers about God? So I have a short answer for this. Tactics by Greg Koukl. It's a book. It's like that thick. It's like a really thin book. It's called Tactics by Greg Koukl. Very simple, practical ways of talking to people about anything, whether they're Christian or not. And it just makes you a better communicator and a better person at conversation altogether. So that's going to be my answer for that. Anybody else?
Just more compassion, and I mean that's really it. I mean, so at least for my personal view, again, I like to be right. So like coming across that way is bad sometimes, of course. Just because you're right doesn't mean you have to rub it in people's face. And I've had to learn that for most of my life. So it's just talking with a little bit of love. I give you a little bit of a smart mouth again, but I know that when it comes to somebody who is in need of God and is looking for God, it's not just like God is the way. Just go to church. Like, no, it's more than that. You actually have to listen. You have to show love. That's the only way to be able to approach somebody who is a non-believer. You can't be, pushing verses down their throat. If anything, I think the best way of doing it is living kind of example-wise. Just because it's going to be difficult for them to even listen to you And no one likes to listen to a know-it-all or likes to listen to someone who's not going to listen to them. That's it. I mean, just compassion. It's a little bit that would probably change a lot if we trained a little bit more in compassion in churches.
Yeah, Peter said with gentleness and respect, right? So be willing to have conversations with them with lots of compassion, lots of gentleness, lots of respect. That can be difficult if the other person starts getting really like hot headed about their position and stuff like that. But the problem is you're the Christian. So you're the one who has to live up to Christ's standards. You're the one who has to keep your cool um, because you're the Christian. And that's not easy to do. I'm not saying it is. So please don't misinterpret what I'm saying, especially as a teenager who has, control impulses, um, control impulse issues, and there's a lot of self control lacking. I know that can be difficult, but guys, don't underestimate the power of prayer. Praying to God and saying, God, help me keep my cool. I'm getting angry. Help me keep my cool right now. And I'm gonna keep saying that because I feel like a lot of you guys forget that. Like, well, not just you, I forget that. Sometimes in the middle of conversations, I forget to do that and just ask God for a little bit of just to cool me down and help me out. So it's not just you guys.
And if you do blow up and are mean to someone or make them turn away, apologize. It's
Yeah,
hard. But even that simple gesture could make them think, wow, this person is different. And they actually care to
admit
come.
it.
And maybe it's somebody you never see again. But like, just go and apologize. I mean, that makes a difference. I mean, being that I work with a lot of people, if and I have not always been nice. I mean, sometimes people test me, and then I apologize. Like, there's no way around it. And you just say, "Hey, I should have lost my temper," So that's it.
Yeah.
Being a Christian doesn't mean you're perfect. It means that you're thinking and trying to be like Christ. So when you do fail, you still have to make it right. It's not like, hey, let's just ignore it. It'll probably go away.
Hmm. Yeah. I think how can we improve? Don't forget, don't, again, I'm trying to be better about this. Don't underestimate the power of prayer. I'm not saying just pray because that's not going to work either. Um, what I am saying is, in addition to what you're trying in addition to the strategies you're trying to build, pray and don't underestimate the power of that. So, yeah. Anybody else? Good.
Uh, I sometimes think like, and this is in my spiritual growth, that I think that sometimes like I know like I saw like you got like Julie did and Rafa, you guys said it, pray on like if you know you're a tempered person or if you're an angry person, pray, and like if things piss you off. You ever notice that when you pray for something, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse, that feeling? So I started to think that, but then I started to realize, and this is just my realization, that right there in those moments that things are getting worse, God is creating opportunity for you to make a difference. So if you're constantly like saying like, "Oh, I'm a hothead," I'm gonna blow up, and then the next day it's in your face and you're pissed off, and you're just like, you know what? This is an opportunity to me to show God that I can push that aside and be cool, be calm, show the better Christian that I am, that I'm trying to be at least. The other thing is the other part that you were saying, Julissa, if you could refresh what you said at the very beginning. The question was, how do you improve to be a better Christian?
How
Is that was the question?
how can we improve our ways to talk to non-believers about God?
That right there, I got buddies who are not Christian. You know what I mean? And I'm actually trying to bring them into Christ. And I strongly believe it's about opportunity and opportunity. I mean, to the point that there's one of my buddies, he actually denounced anything religion and Christianity. to the point where he's actually now curious enough. He bought a Bible, he's reading the Bible,
Nice.
and he's talking to me about curious questions. Another buddy of mine, uh, uh, he actually told me, he's like, "Hey man, guess what? I went to a men's conference in somewhere in Tyson's that he actually was involved in." I said, "You know what, man? I'm so proud of you, bro. I would love for you to come down to one of my conferences in my church." He goes, "No doubt, dude. I'll be right there. Just tell me when." It's about opportunity and moments, but never stop being who you are. Christian and Adam, they've actually done that stuff. I mean, by no means these guys are not perfect walking creatures. These guys still, they are who they are. But the fact that the opportunity is there and me pushing that, answering these curious questions, him saying, like, at the very beginning when he would make fun of me about his stuff, I would constantly just correct him and say, "No, this is what this means. Oh, Paul said this, or James said that, or this is what Genesis says, or this is what this does. This is what the Bible breaks it down to." Opportunity of knowing these things, you kind of combat their counter what they're saying, and those opportunities brings curious questions. So my thing is, I think opportunity is created in every situation. Being a better Christian, the opportunity of you becoming better yourself, and the opportunity of when someone asks you something, you're able to answer, and to then bring them curious questions.
That's a good point.
And how can we improve? One of the things I strongly believe in is that God uses us differently depending on how we are. So what I mean by that is, I mean that's a very basic way of thinking, but like I specifically do better with people that want to think within reason and logic, right? If then someone comes to me and they're more emotional, I'm like, "Hey, have you met Ted?" Like I the person that is necessary for them. You also have to be mature enough to say in your head, maybe I'm not exactly the person, and that has happened before. So sometimes they, whether it be because they knew you before you were a Christian, or you may not be the example for certain things, you may not be the person appropriate for that. I think it would improve if we were willing to say that we may not be the best fit. I think that's why there are so many different people in church, and there are many different people that are better than me, whether it be the emotional aspect or maybe the biblical aspect. I'm more of like, this is how I came to be, so I can lead you through that, but I have to work on these other areas. So, here's Ted, talk to him.
Ted. I like
Yeah.
Ted. Who's Ted? My teddy bear?
I always sometimes say, you never be afraid to tell a person, "I don't know the answer to that."
Yeah.
But always tell the person, "I don't know the answer to it, but I promise you tomorrow I'll give you the answer. I will find someone who will. I will.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, let me give him your phone number to answer that question."
Yeah.
Or
You can
level
talk
with
to
them.
anybody.
I've learned that
Yeah.
if you're somewhat, like, I don't want to say don't always speak what you're thinking, but I'm like, look, my human me is telling you to go beat that person up, but this is how you should do that. Like, this is what you should actually do. Like, if you sometimes that honesty makes them like, yeah, I'm thinking that way too, but I need to listen to the other side of it.
And
Because
also,
Keeping it real.
it
yeah,
helps,
exactly.
yeah, keeping it real. It helps letting them know, hey, I'm Christian, but I have those same thoughts that you do. The difference is blank, right?
Yeah.
So
I hate
yeah, people like someone who can find common ground with them and relate with them. I think that one of the best advices I've received by listening to um Nate Sala in now it's called The Wise Disciple, it used to be called the Clear Lens podcast, is he said, if you are having difficulty talking to someone, just find common ground first. Something that you both agree on. Like, hey, you don't like church? Why not? Because, oh, someone hurt me there. Oh man, I don't like it because it's too long. I don't know, whatever, just find common ground and don't always push as if you're like on the other extreme opposite from them. Just let them know, hey, we got some common opinion here about something. And finding that common ground really helps because they realize, oh, that person is a Christian, but they're not unreachable. Like I can actually probably be like them one day because they have the same thoughts as me. They think some things that I think, even though I'm not a Christian. To let them see, hey, we're human. We do have those thoughts. We do have, these evil thoughts coming through our mind as well. The difference is, we, hopefully you have given the example that you don't give into them. And if you make the mistake of doing that you admit to it and you woman up or men up to it and say and apologize and say that you did the wrong thing. So those things should separate us from them, from non-believers in that sense.
If you're talking to someone about Christ, you want to be relatable and approachable. I mean, I have found that I have a lot more in common with people and just through conversation. I mean, it's not about, and like she was saying, it's not about you being on the other team. So like you're a Christian and they're not. It's finding it so that you're both on the same team and you're both trying to just find the best way to live, right? It just makes it much easier. It's not, they don't get defensive. They let their guard down. And that's when you can.
Yeah. You don't want to make yourself where you're like this super perfect person that, oh, you would never have an evil thought and you just do everything just right and you would never dare give into and do something wrong. Like, don't put yourself there because you're going to disappoint everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very true.
Yep. So it's 9:02 and there are no more questions. I don't see any more questions in the chat and there are no more questions here. Let me refresh to make sure, although it's 9:02 already, so maybe it doesn't really matter. No more questions. So guys, we're going to end it here. I'm going to end the stream in a little bit. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Have a good one. Everyone say bye so I can put the ending. Hopefully I do it right this time. So I gotta mute everyone before we do this. Let me